live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. I hate, though, today that I have to admit to you that you were right about something, and that is something that will be brought up during the Florida preview.
I already know what it is.
I haven't fully graded a player that you have told me to watch, but I have, from a lot of people I've talked to, they're very big fans of a certain Mr. Caleb Banks. Now, I will say this much. He's not a breakout player anymore because he's already on everyone's radar.
Well,
so you cheated there.
Hold on. There. No bullshit. Who cheated where?
You cheated there.
No.
You put him on your breakout players, but a lot of NFL people already liked them. Apparently, that's what I'm learning this week.
I did not. I swear to God, I did not know that. That's bullshit. He was not mocked in the top 10 until I came out and started like.
No. Well, nobody was talking 2026. Nobody was on 2026 yet.
There was no mock draft out there until I put him in that bitch.
Well, because everybody was still talking 20. If anyone did a 2026 mock draft back in March when we put those, in February when we put those out, people would have looked at us.
Hand to God. I didn't see any of that, and I'm telling you the kid's legit, and I've been telling you the kids, hand to God. I swear on my life, I did not see that. But all right.
Look, you were right. And the craziest part that I heard is
you already told me I was right, then you started shitting on me.
Well, I can't let you have it 100%. The fact that the guy is 6'6", 320 pounds, and he's rushing outside track for that defense is like, that's not shit. He's what everyone kind of wanted Deion Walker to be last year.
Florida's sneaky.
That's the whole point. That's the whole.
All right. So we'll do a Florida deep dive there. Sneaky.
Exactly my point.
Got a lot to talk about with that. We'll break that down. By the way, out and about this weekend in the Bayou. You know what? I don't go to games. I refuse to go to games, and the people that were with me know why. I don't go to games. Do you know how many times I got stopped saying, why did we stop posting on Ruffino and Joe TikTok this weekend? I forgot to tell you.
Did you actually?
Yeah. Oh, ask anybody that was with us. I was like, well, Joe's doing draft coverage. You know, we're doing a lot of this offseason. They were like, oh, man, I used to watch all y'all's TikToks.
All right. Well, now I got to get back into it. I didn't know that the audience was that big for it.
I didn't.
Well, actually, we had 5,000. We had 5,000 followers. I gotta pick it back up.
Well, and we have some that like go nuclear in there, so whatever. But I did. I do appreciate for all those that listen to Ruffino and Joe show. I do appreciate when seeing y'all brought it up. I really do appreciate that. But Florida deep dive. We'll talk about the Gators who have a tough schedule, but can they upset some of these teams that are on their schedule? We'll talk about that. North Dakota State running back CharMar Brown commits to Miami, Joe. We'll talk about that. Are they going to also get a safety and A.J. Halsey? We can speak on that as well. And let's start off here because Deion Sanders back in the news. This time it's actually about football, Joe, as they have gone out and gotten 4 different players from the transfer portal. Just a couple of them, DeKaylon Taylor, Larry Johnson, John Slaughter, and Hykeem Williams. Your thoughts on some of these guys that they pulled in Colorado?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm excited for what they do every single time that we get like an update on the transfer portal. And I think that this haul is a quality one. It is providing different options at different positions. They lost Augustive. Sorry, I mispronounced his name. They lost Augustive in the transfer portal, so they needed a new running back. DeKaylon Taylor was a really good FCS player this past year. I don't know if he's going to be like super, super impactful because he is a very small running back. Larry Johnson, at the very least, is good depth along your offensive line. He could start. But the one that caught my attention, Blake, was that them adding Hykeem Williams, who was once a very highly sought after receiver recruit, a high 4-star. He was at Florida State, didn't pan out, didn't get on the field like everyone had hoped. And it felt like that there was still something there. It felt like as soon as he showed up at Florida State, a lot of people had really high hopes for him that he could go on to be one of the better receivers in their program. I think that there's something to be unlocked here. I think that with all the departures from this past draft class at receiver, that they needed to add like one more piece of talent. I always like the philosophy for a program like Colorado that is taking these slow steps towards becoming competitive, becoming one of the best teams in their conferences. The way that you win is by taking swings on former highly recruited kids, not the guys that got in trouble for stupid shit like Eric Gilbert, but going after who's in the news, by the way, this week already, which is hilarious.
I saw
but
it.
That
he was when I started AYS that he was the first recruit that they landed.
That's how long he's been playing college football.
Yeah, 5 years, 5.5 years.
Which is insane. But back to Hykeem Williams, taking a swing on a guy who was really highly recruited, didn't get on the field for whatever reason, giving that player a chance is always going to help your team out. It's low risk, it's high reward. That's the biggest one that caught my attention this week.
Okay. What are we trying to accomplish here?
Getting a better football team.
Okay. Do you think that these 4 additions make them a better football team?
I don't think this turns them into a national championship winning team, or it doesn't take them over the top.
I don't even want to talk about a Big 12 team, or for that matter, outside of Clemson, an ACC team being actual national title contenders. I'm not gonna waste my time and my breath arguing with anybody on that, specifically on our show here. Mm-hmm. Does these additions make them a Big 12 champion contender? That's where I would sit at. Does it make them a playoff contender? Because if they win it, they'll get in. Joe, am I supposed to expect that a 166-pound running back is supposed to run in between the tackles? He did in the FCS. He did. He was a little water bug, as people would, call smaller running backs. He's 166 pounds. And I'm not trying to call out the heart of anybody. The kid could have massive heart. But he's 5'9", 166. And it tells me a couple of things with that. I don't know how much they're going to run him in the middle. I think they'll throw him the football. I don't know how much offensively that they're going to change. And, Joe, quite frankly, they better. Look, as much as Shedeur Sanders has been in the news this week, stay with me here. As much as they've been in the news this week about everything that went on this past weekend, this better be a humbling experience for Deion too. The humbling experience needs to come on what you're doing in X's and O's and play calling offensively. Joe, you're 130th in the country and running the football. I mean, you're going to have to change your ways. I don't know if a 166-pound running back gets you there. Like, we'll talk about him later, but if Shamar Brown went there, I would have been like, okay, so they got a little bit of dedication of running the football. But he went to Miami, right? Like, if you got a back that would size, physicality, that would run in between the tackles, I would have been okay. The offensive line piece in Larry Johnson, I don't know where to go there. The kid didn't start. We didn't see him a lot. I don't know if he's even a depth piece for Colorado. Like, I don't know what's going to happen there with him. So I'll just say, look, maybe he's a depth piece at worst, and we'll see. But you need help along your offensive line. John Slaughter and Hykeem Williams, Joe, they don't have a lot of production. And you said something there that I hadn't thought about that I thought was a really good statement by you when you said that they can take swings and misses on highly recruited guys that to the point of not panned out. And you're right there. I do think that Hykeem Williams, 16 catches, 187 yards, and a touchdown last year. It's not like that. Look, I'll say this. It's not as if that he had a lot of help around him either. Right? Like, he was sitting behind a lot of talented guys. Then this year, DJU was the guy throwing you the football. The dude's going to be start working at Northwestern Mutual here soon in DJU. So, maybe you're right there. It's just not a lot of real P4 production for me. I don't know how these pieces are added. Now, I will add to what you said. There's nothing wrong in adding with this. I think when you're having to go in the spring portal and add this many players, you could have done this in high school recruiting. This has been my argument to you for quite some time here. When you're having to take swings and misses and you're panicking in the spring portal to get depth, that's not how you build programs. I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree with what you're saying. What I would say here is the philosophy there's got to change from a run game standpoint and a recruiting high school standpoint so that you don't have to continue to take swings and misses or swings and hits in the portal. So that, I mean, look, they've done a good job there, but I don't know if anybody here that they've gotten is going to transcend or win them football games. They might be okay, but I don't know if it helps them get over the top to where they want to be.
Well, I would argue if they're trying to get their run game better, adding a 6'7", 350-pound offensive lineman who was once a relatively highly touted JUCO recruit who contributed a little bit at Tennessee but didn't start, wasn't good enough to crack the lineup there, and got pushed out by some underclassmen.
Here's the thing with the look. Here's what I'd say about Larry Johnson here. Okay. What's Tennessee's biggest complaint? Their biggest complaint is their offensive line massively struggled.
Okay, this is not a bad point. That if you're taking a guy who couldn't get in the starting lineup of a weak offensive line, what does that say about the quality of the offensive line? But the David Sanders just came in, and that was kind of like a big talking point. Is he has been super impressive for a freshman?
They might move in the right tackle, leave Lance Hurd at left tackle. I mean, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, again, they wanted Lance Hurd benched.
The Big 12 typically doesn't get offensive linemen of this size. That's what I'm getting at here.
That's what you said.
Any guy that has that big of a build, they end up getting plucked to go at least crack a lineup at a team like Kentucky that doesn't usually get the opportunity to recruit a big player like that. Guy who might not be super highly recruited or super impactful, that you can at least add him to your rotation and maybe he ends up starting for you. Teams like Minnesota will take a swing on a guy like that. My point is that the Big Ten and the SEC are usually the ones who thrive when trying to go after players of this physical build, of this size. It is really hard. That has been the one thing that we have talked about a lot with the Big 12 is that most of the teams in this conference don't recruit well on both lines of scrimmage because it's scarce to find talent at either sides of the football on the line of scrimmage because they end up going to play in the SEC and the Big 10 where most of the money is. So I'm giving a little bit of credit. I'm not saying like this is some sort of amazing pull that's going to go on to become a first-round pick, but as you're trying to improve this roster step by step, it's not all going to be done overnight. Now, the one thing that I still stand by, and I don't disagree with you, I see what Deion Sanders' approach to roster building, and we've talked about this before, where I understand why he likes to go into the portal. But if there was a little bit more of an intent in high school recruiting, and he was more willing to go specifically at offensive and defensive line into high school recruiting, there would be less of an issue here. Those are the positions to me that can't be portal heavy. Everything else can be, but offensive and defensive line needs to be more high school recruiting heavy, and he's still not doing it. And it's something that we're going to complain about that I don't think will ever be resolved.
Well, hold on. It's not just there. How many running backs have come in and come out the door in the last 2 years?
Yeah, that's also a good point. It's a bit odd. It's very odd.
Again, I've been screaming this from the rafters. Joe, can they have success because they can get some big name players? Yes. Okay, when you have that level of talent, you can get some big name guys in there. Nobody's arguing that. There also comes a time where I think it needs to be pointed out from a Colorado perspective. Joe, name a successful program that's ever done what they're trying to do. I mean, listen, you have to recruit from the high school ranks. That is how you have to build depth. I'll even be generous, Joe. If 65% of your roster is not high school kids that you recruited, you're not going to get the quality of depth that you need. Again, how many running backs have come in and out of that door? That's a problem there. Secondly, how many wide receivers have come and gone as well? Like I think of Will Shepherd. I think of Travis Hunter. I mean, yeah, he was there for 2 years. It's a big deal, whatever. But now that guy's gone. There are just so many different things that, like, look, man, you're plugging and playing, and eventually you're going to get burned. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to be bad or they're going to lose in the Big 12, but you can be better than what you are is what I'm trying to say. If they would have recruited coming out of the gate and dominated in some areas in high school recruiting, Joe, they wouldn't have this issue. Would they have had to go back and get – how many times have they, Joe, this is the third season for Deion that they've had to get 2 running backs out of the portal? That is insane. That is purely insane. By the way, how many skill players have you gotten from the portal the last 3 years? How many?
They've had a lot of receivers come in, and receivers, they've had a lot of success. But the running back question is a very odd one, and I don't think it's one that's talked about a lot because Augusta leaves. You also have seen multiple other running backs leave in this period of time. You're having to go down.
He went to Kansas State. I forget his name.
I'm blanking on his name as well. But this is the point that we're talking about here. There's just been this weird turnover. We also didn't talk about their center leaving in the transfer portal as well. That's something that also was unexpected. He was one of the best freshman centers in the country.
And Deion call him a team leader?
Yeah.
Deion called him out and called him like a team leader and all that. And I mean, Joe, I'm just being, again, I'm calling it like I see it. You're not going to get a, can you win 8, 7, 8, 9 games? Yes. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? You've built this monster. Now you're Joe. I mean, here's the thing too. Now he's a top 5 paid head coach in the country. Is Deion year on year?
Yeah.
If you're gonna be paid like that, you're gonna get criticized like it. Having these many amount of running backs coming in and out of the door like that, having a level of offense and defensive linemen coming in and out of the door like that, is not gonna win you games. It might win you games in the Big 12, and for that, I applaud you. But you're a top 5 head coach, and you have not won. You have not won squat. You haven't won diddly. Now you've promoted Colorado, and that's fine. I get it's a big deal. I'm not trying to take away from how big of a deal it's been for them. At the same time, the lack of depth should be concerning. And Joe, what if every coach goes through this? What if they go through a situation like Notre Dame last year, where you have the guys that you're bringing in get hurt, and you got to have depth and talent? Name the teams down the stretch that just made the playoff. Hell, for crying out loud, let's talk about Arizona State. They lost their leading wide receiver. And what do? Go look at what Dillingham's doing. He will go in the portal, but some of these kids are coming from the high school ranks, Joe. Like they're trying to develop from within. So that's look, I could sit on this soapbox all day, but I don't know if these 4 additions, what they will do for them. Maybe some of them will hit, maybe they don't. I don't know.
I think at the end of the day, it's at least adding talent. The turnstile of a door is a little bit odd. And when we were coming into this segment, I didn't even think from this angle. I wasn't even thinking from that. I was thinking, oh, these are some quality players. You're adding 2 guys from the SEC. You're adding a talented receiver in Hykeem Williams, who has a ton of potential. But you bring up good points. The more that we think about it, the more that we remind ourselves that there has been a revolving door of guys coming in and out. Cash Cleveland's a good player that you just lost who went to Texas Tech. If he was bad, he wouldn't have been given a bunch of cash to go to Texas Tech.
Pun intended.
Yeah. He was highly sought after for a reason. I don't know if it's a lack of NIL funds. I don't know what is the driving force for
I think their NIL funds. I think their NIL funds went to pay Deion's salary.
Well, they're not.
He is a top 5 paid head coach. I don't like. I'm not. There's no like words to be minced here. He better win the Big 12.
We've already had this conversation. I agree with you. He needs to win the Big 12 this year.
Right. So you're reaching because that you need depth. That is the bottom line here. I mean, and listen, I'm not trying to. Last thing, I'm not trying to put down on DeKaylon Taylor. Excuse me. I'm not. He's 166 pounds. He's a slot receiver.
And there's been guys like that who have succeeded, but knowing and covering FCS football this past year, I would be a little worried of he needs to be 180 to play in the Big 12.
Without a doubt.
And he can get 166.
I mean, he's 5'9". He can get to 180. All right. Joe, before we get rolling, let's talk about our good friends over at Melin before we talk about our other good friends over at betonline.ag.
Yes, of course. I alluded to this yesterday. I'm still trying to get my Melin hat cleaned. I've been wearing it so much.
Did you take a dump on it or something?
No, I just been wearing it a lot. I've been working out. I'm trying to keep it fresh. I work out in it. It's such a good hat that I can wear it when I'm working out, and it's super durable. And I can't recommend it enough. If you're looking for something that you can wear outside when you're working in the yard, if you're looking for something you can wear when you're going for a run, going golfing, whatever it is, they're the best, highest quality hats. They're worth every single penny that you spend on them. Head on over to melin.com, melin.com, to see all of the amazing designs, cool collections that they have. They've got a thermal collection for when it gets cold, different shapes, all these different types of hats that you can find over there at melin.com, melin.com, melin.com. Head on over there to get your Melin hat today.
I've been meaning to ask you this question since everybody's been posing it. Everybody's been asking if Quinn Ewers made a massive mistake by going to the draft.
Yes. First of all, Notre Dame was not in play like everyone. That kept it. Matt Miller has some of the worst sourcing out there, and he brought it up on the broadcast, which was nauseating. But yeah, there were programs that were interested in him that would have given him millions of dollars. He shouldn't have gone to the NFL. The whole thing, the whole talking point, and the whole issue with him jumping to the NFL was that his tape at the end of the year looked like shit because he's so banged up that he could barely throw the ball. Go get healthy. See what you can do to improve your body strength because your core was so screwed up, your shoulder was so screwed up. Do what you can. Take the couple $1 million that you're being handed out, and then go to the NFL. I don't know why he didn't do that. I thought that was a
he would have gotten. Here's the crazy thing: he would have gotten paid more in college than going and being a 7th round pick. He's never
not
been
making the Dolphins roster. He's not making the Dolphins roster. He's not going to work in that offense.
Listen. How long have I been saying that this kid's not as good as everybody tries to pump him up to be? We've been doing this for 3 years.
Hold on. I think that at one point he was showing signs of trending towards.
Where were those signs?
The Alabama game. Both Alabama games. And in both instances, he slowly started to the Alabama game at Alabama where Dallas Turner.
Oh, you're talking about the one that he was under 50% and got hurt in?
He wasn't under 50%. They were the game where they were winning, and then he was out of the game, and Hudson Card couldn't do enough to help him win it.
Okay,
and they lost.
Okay,
and then the other one where he completely took over and dominated, and he was throwing all like crazy all over the yard, and he looked awesome.
Okay, so
he
fell apart.
He physically fell apart.
I don't think he's ever shown anything that would be remotely close to. I mean, making a good throw is fine. Can you make it consistently? Is the question.
Well, this is what the whole problem with him is projecting him in the NFL was that you're not going to draft him for the consistency. You were drafting him for what he once was when he had the big arm and he was super improvisational and he could throw all over the place. He make these crazy throws, but he was so beaten down after so much time that he was like a shell of himself. Yeah, he completely screwed up not taking that money. It was one of the dumbest mistakes that he could have made. Whoever was advising him owes him a couple $1 million.
Yeah, okay, well, Sark.
Do you think Sark was advising him?
I 1,000% think that you cannot convince me that that there wasn't a conversation of him going back to Texas or like what their plan at quarterback was going to be.
Well, I bet you. Yeah, but you want to know what that conversation was probably like? Hey, do you want me to come back? And he probably said, no, we're good. We got Arch. Go ahead.
Or he told him that he's going to be a high draft pick, and they believed him. Just to not like screw anything up. And the kid, I mean, by the way, they said that every hour pass, he killed a new animal and put it on its wall.
I will say
he don't even hunt like that. He doesn't hunt like that. He doesn't look
or
act
stop. You really don't think he doesn't?
No. Nobody that really hunts like that does what he does. No one does that. He did that because he's from Texas. No one does that. No one.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah, I know. They've had a fucking T-Rex skull in there. Did you see it?
I didn't see the T-Rex skull.
That's hilarious. You already come from money. What are we doing here? All right. Anyway. But you do know who did get a good addition today? Was the Miami Hurricanes added North Dakota State running back CharMar Brown, who, Joe, that a situation, a guy that you've covered in North Dakota State as you do cover the FCS, and you are a top 25 voter for the FCS. I'll just kick it over to you. What is Miami getting in running back CharMar Brown?
This is a super underrated pickup, man. I love this. CharMar Brown's not going to take over the primary carries. Like we're all smart enough to know this, that Miami has a pretty quality running back room. Fletcher has shown some signs of what he can capably be in this running back room. There has been good recruiting at that position. But Brown this past year for North Dakota State, Blake, was a rising star. He won the Jerry Rice Award, which was the award for the top FCS freshman in the country. He had 15 rushing touchdowns. And when you flip on the tape, you see a hard-ass runner. And I think that has worked well since Shannon Dawson took over as the offensive coordinator, having these physical, compact, muscly running backs that are just going to run through the line of scrimmage. I implore anyone to go check out my Twitter at Joe DeLeone. I put a short cut up together where he's just running 4 or 5 dudes over. He's carrying the pile, and then he breaks away, and then he gets caught from behind because he's kind of slow. This is not going to be a guy that is going to rush for 1,500 yards at the P4 level. He is going to be a guy that could end up having like 7-8 touchdowns at the end of the year because you bring him in goal line situations and he runs through some MFer's face. I just like his mentality. Having a hard, strong runner like this, you can't go wrong. Guys like this thrive in college football, and he's going to thrive in the ACC because there's going to be plenty of defenses that don't have defensive lines that can slow him down.
You know, I do think everybody's looking for the next Cam Scattaboo after what happened last year, right? That was the first thing that I thought of when this went down. Scattaboo's a better athlete than him, in my humble opinion, as of right now. But this kid's a freshman, and here's the thing: you're adding a kid that you can develop, right? Like I feel like that we just saw. This is what I really feel like we saw, because this kid being a freshman, I feel like we just saw our first like minor league call up.
That's a good way of putting it.
You know what I mean? Like, because there have been guys that have transferred from the FCS, like I can name a couple of them, but they were always like upperclassmen, right? Like juniors, seniors, whatever. Maybe a redshirted sophomore or two, a true freshman. I really feel like I just saw a minor league addition, to put in a baseball pun there. Joe, I think he's got really damn good vision. The way that he cut, like he reminded me of a poor man's Arian Foster when it came to the way that he cut, right? Like I love when you had like the old school Madden and you could be a running back and you'd be a one cut back because your change of direction was like at 99 and you could just hit the hole and you're gone. Mm-hmm. This kid does not have elite speed. He's 5'11", 215 plus, maybe 220.
Probably 4'7" kid, maybe.
Well, and I don't even think he's got elite speed. I think he's got average speed.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's not going to blaze it. But here's the thing where I was going with this. He doesn't have to have a carry this year. You should not expect him to necessarily do that. Joey gets to go in there and develop. And I think that's the thing that, you know, like when you talk about minor leagues, when you talk about like getting called up in a way, I think you're right. He can come in some goal line situations and pound the rock for you. You know, like I think of the situation at Georgia with your new quarterback in Miami, Carson Beck. I think about LSU in 2022. I think about Florida State, right, in 2023 and the way that they did things when they ran the football. All of those teams that ran the football effectively in either which way, they always had a guy that could carry the ball at the goal line, and that's why they scored a lot. I could see that. He does have a really damn strong vision, and I think that's his best quality, and that's something that you just can't teach. You know what else I can teach? I could teach him to lose a little bit of weight, maybe get a little bit leaner, maybe not weight necessarily, but get leaner. He's going to be in a better overall facility where he can do that. I think he can become more explosive, but the way that he scored a lot of this, like I was watching your film today, the Missouri State run, that had nothing to do with pure athleticism. Nothing. It had everything to do with vision. He made 2 cuts in and out, and he was gone. Now, he was getting run down by a defensive lineman, but other than that, I mean, like, he made it look very easy from a vision standpoint. If this kid can develop, get bigger, get leaner, but while getting stronger, I think that he could really add in Miami. But here's the thing. He doesn't have to do it this year. You're getting a freshman. That's the point, or you're getting a sophomore, technically, I guess. He can be an addition, but at the same time, it's not like that he comes in and you're in a situation he's got to go now. But, man, if this is like your second or third string running back, holy shit. Like that, I love it. The kid's got elite vision.
I really think he's going to contribute a little more than you're suggesting here, but I understand what you're saying. You already have Jordan Lyle.
Everything else is lagniappe. How about what I'm trying to say is everything else is filet mignon. Everything else is etouffee. Everything else is lagniappe. Whatever he gives you is a bonus.
Right. You already have Mark Fletcher. You have Jordan Lyle listed as your 2 deep. Having a third running back like this that was this productive is significant. I think that just general play style is just a nice little piece to add to a team that is going to run the ball a shitload this year. I think that we know that their offensive line's already going to be great. I think what intrigues me, though, for this upcoming season is that they lost a lot of receivers. You're bringing in Carson Beck, who's coming off of the elbow. I really think that despite being an air raid team, that they're going to focus on running the football. I think that their approach is going to be, hey, we are going to try and ground out every single team that we play. You don't have 3 big body running backs like this if you don't have that intention. You don't think that you're going to be trying to grind out who you're going up against. And you got 3 freshman receivers coming in that are listed in your 2 deep right now. I don't know if that ends up forming that way after fall camp comes up, but having experience and production at running back has caught my attention. I've heard a lot of people say this offseason with Miami that the receiver room does not do enough to excite them. And I point at the running back room to say, I don't know if they need to really throw the ball that much because they're going to be running all over everybody that they face.
I'll just say this, but I gotta say this. You're gonna have to throw the football in these big games, though.
Yeah, well, that's what you have Carson back for. He's got guys that aren't going to just be dropping every single pass.
How's that elbow?
Well, we got to figure that out.
Right. I do agree with you on this. Here's the ironic thing: they got away from it so much. I don't know if I'm buying in yet until I see Shannon Dawson do that. Joe, I've told you this story 1,000 times. I've said it on here 1,000 times. Shannon comes from the same college offense that we ran. He was a running back. Here's the ironic part of it. He was the running backs coach at Southeastern. And think of the guys that came out of there, the coordinators, Pete Golding, you have Shannon Dawson that's there. Brett Lashley was there for a little bit as a GA, and then he left. I mean, there's been so many different situations there. I will tell you this. We had a guy named Jay Lucas, who was at Texas A&M, came to Southeastern. He reminds me of Jay Lucas. This kid all of you old heads will remember this. He's a one-cut back. He is now. I just don't know yet. I do think the premise that you're coming at is right. I need to see Shannon do that. I've never seen any one of those guys run the ball like that ever. Name one. I mean, I can't think of any that now are in the P4. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But look, we'll see. I mean, they do need to run the football, though. And here's the thing. Defensively, in that secondary where they got cooked a year ago, God, remember how much Miami fans hated my ass last year because I kept saying that? Regardless, I mean, you might be able to control the game a little bit more. And that's where I feel like that they lost a lot of games. They let the game get out of control. Like even though they're scoring, they never had control of the game. Even though you had Damian Martinez. Sometimes you don't need to go shot for shot with somebody. You remember Rocky 2? You remember the movie Rocky 2? Remember when Apollo Creed's trainer was like, stop going shot for shot with him. Stay away, jab him, and let's get out of here. Run the ball, to your point. You can control the game in a little bit about like this too. So to your point, if they do that, it would be a big deal.
I will say but I like that point that like the times it felt like, hey, why aren't you just running the ball?
You've admired me. You have said that I'm right on mistakes today.
Shut up. Okay.
Hell is freezing over right now.
You've made points that made sense. It's a shocking occurrence, okay? So when it happens, I have to give you credit.
Jesus.
Yeah, there were a couple of games where it felt like they had a chance to just kind of grind it out and slow it down. And we criticized them for not just like controlling the clock. You've got big ass Damian Martinez back there. You've got Fletcher. Just run the ball. I think that they're going to be able to do that more. I think that there's more self-awareness. I will say one thing that was an interesting layer to this. CharMar Brown enters the portal. He's projected to go to Cal. Cal loses 4 running backs.
5.
5. The report was that they gave Brown time to decide. And then they told him he was taking too long, that he took too long. That was the report that came out today.
How about that?
And they moved on. And after that, I was like, man, I wonder where he goes. Originally, when he was projected to go to Cal, I was thinking like, oh, that's kind of lame. Cal's not going to really be that great this year. As soon as I saw the Miami projection and then the commitment, I immediately tweeted out, I'm like, shit, this is great. This is perfect. But the one thing that caught my eye, though, with that is like, what the hell is going on with Harsin? Like, are they going to have a tight end running the football next year? Like, what the shit are they doing?
Bro, he's one of the
he's scaring all the hoes. Like, what the hell is he doing? Like, seriously. Like, I say that in jest, but like, that's the vibe. He's scaring everyone away. No one wants to play for him. What the hell is he doing?
Oh, buddy. I 1000% am clipping that and putting that on social media. Brian Harsin is the kind of coach that scares away all the hoes. He's the guy that scares away all the hoes at the party.
Yeah. He's your buddy that you invite.
Dude, but here's
he
the
shows
point.
up and then all the girls go to the opposite side of the room. That's who he is.
But dude, to your point though, man, he really kind of is. That whole Auburn situation was so bad that, bro, he had 4 guys. What happened? What happened? This can't be all on him, right? Like, this has got to be other situations involved in this. This can't just be one guy.
I would think the fact that this has kind of happened twice. And every time he shows up somewhere, it's like, huh. It's do you watch I Think You Should Leave? You know, the
I don't know.
Well, there's the one where the guy's wearing the meme where the guy's wearing the hot dog costume and he's saying like, gee, I wonder who did this. I hope we can find the guy who did this. And it's him. He's the one who's responsible for everything. We keep questioning like, hey, what's causing all these problems? Oh, maybe it's the same guy that happens to have the problems following him every time he shows up somewhere.
And Auburn still hasn't had a winning season.
That program might be cursed, man.
Might be.
Although they got some dudes too, though. I can't wait to talk about them. I like that Keldrick Falk kid. That kid can kick some ass.
Question is, when the hell are they going to do offensively? All right, Joe, before we get to this Florida deep dive, tell our good friends about our friends over at Cheribundi.
Yes, of course. Cheribundi has been sponsoring the show for a couple of weeks now, and their products are absolutely fantastic. They are super high quality. Anyone who follows the show knows that Blake and I, past year, we've both become health nuts, and having a quality product like this that you know you can trust and are used by trusted sources, it makes things so much easier when you're trying to build a healthier lifestyle. They've got products that reduce soreness, increase recovery, help improve sleep, help support immunity. And currently, Cheribundi is used by 500 collegiate and professional sports teams. It's used by every NFL team. 10 of the last 11 Super Bowl champions used it. Every team that has played in Europe and Brazil this past season had Cheribundi with them. 66 out of 67 Power 4 conference football teams have used Cheribundi, and every NCAA football and basketball national champion since 2007 has used Cheribundi. So if you want championship caliber nutrition and impact with your supplements, make sure you use Cheribundi. Head on over to cheribundi.com. By the part we haven't talked about this, that they need to put this into the read that they send us. The way that you know that the stuff in there's not crap is that if you're using something that if NCAA teams are using a supplement, it has to go through a rigorous approval process. There were times where like if you showed up for workouts in the winter, you had to show your protein powder or whatever you were going to use, whatever supplement, to our strength coach. Otherwise, it wasn't getting approved. There's a long ass list of things that you can't use. So it's a big deal for these products.
Dude, you want to hear my freshman prank at Southeastern?
I'm afraid to hear
my pre-workout was C4, and my then roommate Luis Salpavaro said, "Brother, you know that's a banned substance," and we had to get P tested week 7.
Mm-hmm.
He told me I hid. I act like I didn't know that the test was like that day. I hid. Didn't do it. Didn't go in there. And so everybody, coach is calling me like, what are you doing? I'm like, coach, I'm sorry. My mom, whatever. Sitting in my apartment building. Okay. Not moving. Luis walks in there laughing his ass off. He goes, boy, you in trouble. And by the way, I have no idea if it's banned or not.
Yeah, I don't think it's banned. I had the same thing. I think I had teammates that I used to take it too. Mistake. Awful. It's awful for you. You feel like shit every time you use it. It's not useful.
I feel like I used to get a massive pump.
There's just better pre-workouts out there. I don't know. I just feel like I always wanted to have. I was going to have a heart attack.
The amino acid one, it's basically. I mean, you produce amino acids. That one's insane. But man, I basically felt like I was on steroids when I was taking C4. Angry all the damn time. Anyway, all right. So, Joe, we continue on our deep dives tonight, and I am really excited for this one as we go down and stay in the Sunshine State. We talk about the Florida Gators here. Joe, I've been very fired up to talk about Florida because I think that they could be a sneaky team. I don't want to overreact and say, hey, man, this is a playoff team, that this team can really do some good things and make a push. I don't know if I want to go there. But, man, I really like some of the pieces that they got here. A lot of question marks. I think they got question marks at receiver. I think they have question marks in their linebacking room. I think they have some questions in their secondary. But, man, their whole O-line pretty much turns back. Some of the defensive line pieces that they have. We'll talk about Caleb Banks. We kind of already have talked about Caleb Banks a little bit on this show because I said that I loved him. Brother, they got some serious talent in some of these positions now.
Blake, we've spent a lot of time in a lot of ways clowning on Billy Napier. And I think that it's been justified, but where we sit at the current moment, this is the prove it moment. This is the moment where they're actually able to show what he's been building. Now, I bring this up to point out that there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders because if he doesn't win after being afforded the extra year of a buffer, after having the time to recruit and to develop all of these guys, if he still can't win, that proves he can't get the job done. But I think that with this roster, it is one of the more talented rosters in the SEC. I don't believe that they're going to win the SEC. But they have the bones of a team that can win 9 games this upcoming year. I think it reminds me a lot of last year where South Carolina came out of nowhere. Where South Carolina, expectations were low, easy program to clown on, so much so that I got myself caught up trying to clown on that program and made the mistake.
You know who didn't clown on them?
You clowned on them too. Don't act like you didn't. You laughed at my joke, but let's stay on topic here. Let's stay on topic here. My point is that eventually they started to piece together big game after big game. They had really underrated elite athletes that started to show themselves week in and week out. This Florida team has that. It has Caleb Banks, who my friend Ryan Roberts, who I co-host our NFL Draft channel with, has gone as far as to say he believes could be the best prospect in the class for 2026.
Interesting take.
Okay. Tyreek Sapp is a very gifted defensive end, could also be a first rounder. You have Eugene Wilson, who was a little banged up last year, who could also be a first rounder. And you have DJ Lagway, who was the belle of the ball a year ago in the recruiting class that he was in, that has all the potential in the world and has shown some unreal things that he can do with his arm. Lastly, is capped off by 2 receiver additions in Dallas Wilson, who a lot of people are hyping up, the freshman, and J. Michael Sturdivant, who comes in from UCLA, who has a lot of potential that the NFL loves. This checks a lot of boxes for me, Blake. I know we're going to look at the schedule in a second, but we're not looking at a team that's got just a bunch of quality players that are hoping to do some things. Now, I see a team that's got first-round talent that has the potential to dominate.
All right. You started off the show today, and you said what exactly?
I said that you were right about Caleb Banks.
About a month ago, we came in here and we were doing our conference top 5 defenders, top 5, receiver, running backs, quarterbacks, all of it, right? Caleb Banks was on the top of my list, one of the top part of my list in the SEC. What I told you then and what I tell you now is don't let the stats fool you. Do not allow those stats to fool you. Joe, down the stretch against LSU, they had 2 offensive linemen on that offensive line. One that got drafted at 4, another one that got drafted at Baltimore, which I love that addition. I love that pick for that team. And Emory Jones, Caleb Banks wrecked shop. The disruptive nature of what 88 plays with is on a different level that I've seen from some of these interior defensive linemen in the SEC. I see him as one of those guys that you look at in Big 10 or SEC, that when you look at them, they are different human beings. They are cut from a different type of cloth. Now, he turned it up post-Texas. Really, post-Georgia, if I'm being honest, I thought that he disrupted that Georgia film all over the place. Joe, the stats aren't going to be there, but he's pushing dudes back into the backfield, which is causing mistiming. It's causing chaos in the backfield. Him alone, I don't know how high of a level he can take this. What I will tell you is that if he has the season the way that he ended 2024, Joe, he will be a top 5 pick. I do not care if he finishes. Now, is there a chance that teams start really honing in on him? Is there chances that people run away from him? They do special things because of him? Maybe. Let's see how he can live up to what he did the end of the season. Joe, I will go as far as saying this. I don't think there was a better defensive lineman that ended the season in the entire country better than him.
I agree with that.
I really don't. So that is a big centerpiece defensively for me. You brought up Tyreek Sapp here. Joe, okay. That's 2. I mean, like you mentioned, that's 2 potential first-round picks along their defensive line. Can they live up to this hype? What's interesting is I felt like last year when it was announced that Billy was coming back, 1 for sure, but 2 I know for sure. Tyreek Sapp and Caleb Banks said, oh, hell yeah. Their play massively went through the roof. So if anything, you went out and found 2 dudes that can really play. But, Joe, I got to push back on a couple of areas here for you, okay, that concern me going into the season in 2025 for Florida. Number 1, I am worried about their secondary. I am worried about their secondary. By the way, they're losing three of their top tacklers from this team. Yeah. One in the portal, one graduated. Joe, I look at this team and say, I see the potential. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. The question becomes here for me with them, can you replace things you have at linebacker? Can you replace things that you have in the secondary? Joe, secondary-wise, they have not been great. They have gotten obliterated. You remember the Texas game where they're having to throw out Kamani McLean? I mean, so I don't know if they can be good enough there. If they can, then fine. Look, I come out here and talked about Ron Roberts. Speaking of Southeastern, this is the second reference I brought them up today. He was the head coach there. He was a mentor for guys like Dave Aranda and Pete Golding that were a part of those staffs who were in the SEC and collectively a head coach at Baylor. The thing I would say here is Ron has always had some sketchy secondaries, always. Go back to wherever he's been. They got to improve at linebacker, and we'll see. I don't know about secondary, but their defensive line has some outright dudes on it. I will say this, though, to your point about the offense before I kick it back over to you. Joe, what are we supposed to do with DJ Lagway in this injury? Because I saw him throw this week, and he didn't look bad throwing it. Looked like he had some zip on it. But at the same time, anybody can put zip on the ball in the air when no one's going to hit them and there's no repercussions of it and you don't have pads on. Should we be worried, or is he going to be okay coming in this? And one thing I would say, too, before I kick it back, Billy said he was on a pitch count. I don't like hearing that. I don't, from a quarterback, I don't like hearing that right there. So
well, it's not, we're not talking like it's August right now. Like it's May. He's got multiple
but Joe, if
months to
you
get
have
better.
a rotator cuff, if you have a shoulder problem, listen, brother, I don't care what anybody tells me. That ain't just because he's got May, June, July, August does not. If it's a rotator cuff issue, if it's a labrum issue, that doesn't matter. Listen, I'm telling you, but these baseball guys have these injuries all the time, brother. All right, okay, don't play around with this now.
I don't disagree with that part. I think that as long as he's back, their success is contingent on DJ Lagway. Like to call it what it is. He was unavailable for that one game and they started the Yale kid. He got smoked. And then as soon as he comes back,
that kid had heart, man. That kid had heart.
He comes back and then all of a sudden they're super competitive again. Their success, it hinges on Lagway's ability.
Well, they beat LSU and Ole Miss, to your point. Right.
I think the craziest part too is that like Lagway's statistical performances, like his completion percentage,
they weren't great.
But the difference is that you saw from a freshman, and why a lot of times, like when you talk to people about guys that are like showing promise, like the Maeva video that we did yesterday was a really good example of this, where you can just see that he's all over the place and he's not making the plays to elevate his team. When you watch DJ Lagway, you see mistakes that are impacted by experience, but when he clicks, you see the flashes. Those plays elevated his team to wins. Those plays elevated his team to get first downs, to convert, touchdowns, big plays, all of it. And everyone rallied around him. Nobody's rallying around Jaden Maeva. People rallied around DJ Lagway, and I think that that's where the general optimism comes into play. Can I read their schedule, or do you have anything else that you want to add in before we
Yeah, I do. If we got a quick second.
Go ahead.
Well, the thing about DJ Lagway was, Joe, in every crunch time situation, Ole Miss, LSU, Florida State, he made elite throws, not great throws. Elite. Like, this is 5-star quad, like best throw I've seen a freshman quarterback make type shit. I mean, he made some bazooka throws even against Georgia before he got hurt in that one. I mean, I just don't like he had the hamstring and the shoulder. That would worry me. I mean, we'll see. I hope he has a lot of success, and I hope he's healthy. I really do. Michael Sturdivant. Joey's production's dropped every single year. I get he was at UCLA. I know he's got a lot of high potential. They need a receiver that's going to break out. Does their offensive line that's all back, did they collectively get better? Joe, you got 5 dudes that are coming back from bruh. All right. Okay.
That O-line makes me feel pretty good about the.
You know who had that?
Who?
Georgia and Michigan. You know who had 4 of the 5?
Who?
Ohio State. Then they went and got McLaughlin. So I would just
to put the caveat on it, like we're not saying that they win a national title,
correct.
but like it's an indicator.
No, if you look at all correct, I'm not saying they're winning a natty. Go look at the overall run game success. You bring in Jaden Bow back, the freshman who exploded a year ago. Joe, they had 2 true freshmen that exploded on the scene and nobody wanted to talk about. We forget about Jaden. But, Joe, I got to tell you this, Jacoby Jackson, they might have one of the best 1-2 running back like duos in the SEC. Screw this whole just DJ Lagway. Joe, they might be able to run the football here. Like, that's the thing for me where they can control tempo on both sides of the football. That's what makes them so sneaky and dangerous to me. Now, we're going to talk about them more. This probably won't be the first breakdown that we do about Florida. But one thing is damn for sure, brother, don't let it surprise you if they sneak up and start beating some teams. That's what I'd say.
So to take a look at who they'd have.
Yes.
LIU at home, USF at home, at LSU, tough game, at Miami, which will be tough, but could be a sneaky upset opportunity. Bye week, they host Texas, so that could be a really sneaky steal for them. At Texas A&M versus Mississippi State, bye week, versus Georgia, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, versus Tennessee, versus Florida State. I see a lot of tough matchups. I see 2 difficult games on the road, going to LSU, going to Ole Miss, But I see them benefiting from the fact that they get to host and also going to Miami. So that's 3 tough road games. But they get to benefit from hosting Georgia, Tennessee,
Well, no, they don't have
and Texas.
Georgia's in
and Texas. And that's a good point.
Yeah.
And they also have to go to Texas A&M. It's a hard schedule, but it's one in which I think 9-3 is capably on the table if they play to this potential that we're putting out there. I think anything more than that might be a little bit too aggressive if I'm being honest.
I agree with you. I think that that's their ceiling. I do think that they can get one more win. I think they can get to 9 wins. I don't know when it is, even if it comes in the bowl game. Joe, I got to be real with you. There are a couple of games on here, like the final stretch again for them. It's not as brutal as it once was. Like the Tennessee game doesn't feel as brutal as it once was, and them going to the Swamp. They don't win there. Tennessee does not win in Bill Hill Griffith Stadium. They couldn't win there. I mean, they just haven't had any luck there. Georgia, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. It's not easy, but here's the problem with that. 3 of those 5 games are on the road, even with Georgia, that game being in Jacksonville. So, again, down the stretch, I mean, they have some really interesting things. I'm glad they get Texas at home if I'm a fan of them. But even if you go in the beginning of the season, Joe, 2 of their 3 toughest games in the beginning of the season, 3 of the 4 weeks are away at LSU, at Miami, at Texas A&M. So you start off like this is brutal, dude. I mean,
yeah, they got some tough schedules.
Well, they're tough. You say they benefit for getting some at home. 3-3. So the top 4 tough games, 3 of them are on the road. The back 3 of them are on the road. No, 4 of them are on the road.
Well, they've got better rosters and definitely better quarterbacks than a number of those teams that we just mentioned there. They're better quarterback than Ole Miss. Better quarterback than Texas A&M. It's going to be a lot of questions if they can get the job done in those games.
I agree. You better have experienced offense and defensive lines, which they do. So We'll see. All right, Joe. We'll see y'all again on Sunday. Y'all have a good night, man. Peace out, Girl Scouts.